The topic of our presentation today is advancing IoT in developing countries, possibilities, opportunities, and risk. IoT is Internet of Things. So a brief profile of our speaker today. Engineer Dr. Adedayo Eberechukwu Omisakin has worked in the semiconductor and wireless industry, academic research, and interned at reputable companies, demonstrating versatility and adaptability to new environments. He is currently employed as a design flow and modeling engineer at NXP Semiconductors, where he specializes in 2.5D and 3D layout modeling and simulation of IC, package, PCB, and antenna, with a focus on EMC, signal and power integrity, RF, and mmWave. Before joining NXP, he worked as an RF test engineer at the antenna company, where he characterized RF antenna systems using VNA, multi-probe chamber, Octoscope, and MVG MiniLab. He also designed and optimized RF boards using ADS, momentum, and CST, which included coplanar wave transmission lines for UHF, LTE, and Wi-Fi bands to ensure high isolation between antenna elements. As a research assistant at the Eindhoven University of Technology, he implemented a custom ASIC for UWB transceiver on CMOS semiconductors technology in Kansas, achieving impressive results that exceeded the project's requirement for power consumption and data rates. During his internship at Philips Innovation Center, he invented a novel metamaterial back antenna for off-body applications, which demonstrated over 30% improvement in efficiency. In addition, he has experience as a technical instructor at New Horizons System Solution and an instructor at Nigerian Navy Secondary School, where he taught engineering principles to students. His educational background includes a PhD in electrical engineering from the Eindhoven University of Technology, a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering, also from Eindhoven University of Technology, and a Bachelor of Science in Electrical and Electronics Engineering from Eastern Mediterranean University in Cyprus, where he graduated cum laude with a CGPA of 4.00 by 4.00. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Engineer Adedayo for the presentation today. Thank you. So Dr. Adedayo, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for that introduction. Quite privileged to be here in the midst of engineers. All protocols duly observed. Okay. So we can begin. A quick confirmation, my screen is visible.
Yes,
yes.
it is.
Great, awesome, good. Yeah, so the topic before us, as already mentioned, is advancing IoT in developing countries, looking at the possibilities, the opportunities, and the risks that are associated with IoT. Okay, so what we'll be looking at today, I'll be introducing IoT and talking about the emergence of IoT in developing countries. We will look at the possibilities of IoT in developing countries and the opportunities of IoT in developing countries as well, and the risks of IoT in developing countries, and draw a few conclusions. Great. So a brief introduction. I'm excited that we have even deeper experts in IoT here. It gladdens me. So in the discussion time, we would have a lot of contributions, I believe. So because we are from diverse backgrounds and we have mechanical engineers and civil engineers, it'd be very good to give some very basic things. A computer network. Let's start with a computer network. When we think about a computer network, it's simply connected computers. We have personal area networks. It could just it could be as simple as your Bluetooth connecting to your headphones. Maybe someone here is already using the Bluetooth headphones, I don't know, but that's already indirectly a personal area network. We have local area networks. It could be in your house, you have a Wi-Fi. We're connecting, most of us, I believe, are connected with the Wi-Fi listening. So that's a local area network around your house. Your kids are connecting to that network. So it's a computer network. And when we talk about the internet, we are talking about interconnected computer networks. So because these computer networks are interconnected, one at one part of his network can be able to reach somebody else at another far end, because they are sort of interconnected. So looking at this, historically, only computers were connected to the internet. Far back in the past, only computers. So you'd have this desktop computer with a big screen, white, and try to connect maybe Yahoo Mail or something, and it was only computers. Our phones then, the Nokia 3310 and the others, we are not able to connect to the internet. And then after this, mobile technology advanced, especially when we started to with the invention of advanced transistors. The mobile phones began to have capabilities thanks to small chips. It's part of what I do in my current company. We were able to develop mobile phones that were as good as computers. So then they thought about, wait a minute, why not these mobile phones connect to the internet? These mobile phones were able to connect to the internet via the mobile network. And that's where the world was going to. But then people started to think further and like, wait a minute, we can connect the phones, we are connecting the computers. Now, other things are even connected to the internet. So there comes the word Internet of Things, because it's not just a computer or a phone, it's virtually anything, any object that can be connected to the internet. So if we look at the image on the right, we see like the IoT devices. We could have general devices also as well, and we could have the sensing devices, and these are sensors of various forms trying to collect information. So basically, most of the objects or the things have sensors attached to them, and they will be somehow connected to a network that could be a little bit local. And maybe they could also interface with general devices, the phones, computers, or TV. So this alone, as it is really a network of things already. So, and then you have a gateway. A gateway could be your router, or another device, depending on the magnitude in which the IoT is being deployed. Then you are able to connect this system to the internet. That depending on the level of complexity of functionality you want to have, it could involve things like cloud computing. It's kind of very impressive. And then we could also have things like data analytics together with artificial intelligence. Great. So basically, if we want to define IoT in a very simplistic form, it's the idea of referring to the connection of physical devices and objects to the internet, enabling them to collect and share data. So basically, if you're thinking about connecting objects, if you look at the picture on the image on the right, it could be your microwave, your air conditioner, your light bulb, cameras, if you're looking to connect these things to the internet and allow them to collect and share data, basically you are thinking of IoT. So already that could already begin to, that already can already begin to spark our imaginations and like, what object can I connect to the internet? Or what object can I connect to the network? Can I collect data from it? Can I share data with it? And in developing countries, IoT has the potential to transform several industries, because in diverse industries, we are mostly data-driven, and collecting information and being able to control or manage something. IoT has the potential to transform industries. However, as with any emerging technology, like our branch coordinator mentioned, it presents opportunities and risks as well that we have to carefully consider. So you look at the whole thing and then see, okay, that in this case, will it be beneficial or not? So that's some introduction. Let's talk about the emergence. How did IoT begin to emerge in developing countries like Africa, Nigeria? IoT is rapidly gaining traction in Africa, and it's expected to have significant impact on the continent's economic and social development. And according to the International Data Corporation, the spending on IoT in Africa is expected to reach $7.5 billion by 2023, this year we are in. And this was only 1.2 billion in 2018. So the market is ever growing, because as long as objects would continue to exist and increase, IoT will emerge stronger and stronger and stronger, even in the developed countries. So this emergence of how IoT began to emerge strongly in developing countries. If you see the image at the right, everybody's on their phone, yeah. It's really started with the rapid growth in mobile technology. Thanks to the innovations in semiconductors, I currently work at NXP, where we try to make cutting-edge chips very small and affordable. So when these chips can be made small and affordable, Africa was able to afford mobile technology. And it's quite very funny, just something personal. Myself, for the past maybe 4 or 5 years, I even tend to buy my phones from Nigeria. So anytime I visit Nigeria, I try to get a mobile phone there, as opposed to buying it in Europe, because it's way much cheaper for the same functionality. And they haven't packed up. Even the last one I bought hasn't packed up. And so, as you can imagine, when it's affordable like this, the mobile phones itself, not IoT, but I'm talking about the mobile phones themselves, and the market began to grow. Currently in Africa, we have over 500 million mobile subscribers. So mobile technology is not IoT, but mobile phones is a thing. So it's part of the Internet of Things. So this rapid growth in mobile technology began to make the IoT emerge. The other thing, again, is wanting to have a mobile phone, but can it get connected to the internet? Thanks to the advancement in mobile networks. So mobile networks began to grow from 1G, 2G, 3G. At 3G was when we started talking about GPRS, when internet was enabled in mobile technology. So Mobile networks, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, can also have internet capacity. And even now we're in 4G, everything, even the voice is going to be packet switched, which is really internet driven technology. So the internet penetration increased very strongly in Africa. So the internet penetration in Africa has been growing rapidly by increasing the availability of affordable data plans. I remember probably some 6 years, 7, 8 years ago, when I visited Nigeria after 4 years, I noticed that the mobile plan, data plans were very expensive, but now it's almost 3 times cheaper than it was then. So this kind of increase in internet penetration enables these mobile phones to be connected to the internet, and which is already getting you many steps closer to the Internet of Things itself. So, and the other thing is about the need for innovative solutions. So Africa faces a range of unique challenges: poor infrastructure, inadequate healthcare systems, high levels of poverty, and people have challenges, and they are starting to ask, how can the internet, how can sharing and collecting data solve the challenges that we face daily in developing countries? So these things together began to make IoT emerge strongly, and it's even going to emerge even much more stronger in the coming years. So now we've introduced what IoT, we know what IoT is now, we understand how it emerged and it's emerging in developing countries. Let's begin to look at the possibilities of IoT. One of the possibilities we can think about is in agriculture. So if you look at the picture on the right, you see, you could think about drones for field monitoring. So the farmers plant, and then instead of walking around very extensive lands, these drones could move around from time to time and monitor the farm and give the farmer updates through an internet, through the internet. So it's, in other words, the farm, it's like a thing, it's like an object, so to speak, but it's a living thing, right? It's sort of, in a way, indirectly connected to the internet. You could think about water management, putting sensors in the soil that are able to sense a couple of things and give the farmer updates while the farmer maybe is at home. And he wakes up in the morning and thinks about, okay, am I going to the farm today? Do I need to water this today? And this effective connection, because of his farm, his soil is connected to the internet in a way. He's able to, through sensors, right? Sensing humidity, and sensing the parameters in the soil. They are able to optimize and optimize their crop yield and reduce water usage, because they know just enough water and to give, and improve the efficiency of resources. You could even, as far as deploy IoT in the machines that are being used for routine operations in the farm. So, and agriculture is one of the huge possibility of deploying IoT. And as you can see, even in over the past years, there has been this new term we call agri-tech. And then in agri-tech, trying to use technology, IoT is one of those technology, because you can be able to connect sensors to things and collect and share data, and you could have platforms that you develop. Obviously, those platforms needs to be regulated in a way, and they can be able to do diverse things to enhance and take farming to a whole new level, to take agriculture to a whole new level as well. If you think about another possibility of IoT in developing countries, is in the area of healthcare. If you think about telehealth, imagine people in rural areas where a doctor maybe is far away, they have to walk very far. In telehealth, with video calls and video, they can be able to do a lot of appointments with the doctor without being able to cross the rivers, and you know, it could enhance healthcare. Not only that, the health, the things that are health related, it could be maybe the hearing aids that the patients are using, or for example, it could be visual aids that are in current development, and these things could be connected in a platform and be connected to the internet, that the doctor from far away does not need to be there physically, but is able to have access to those data that the sensors are providing about the patient, and being able to feedback to the patient through telehealth as well. And not only that, with IoT, we can be able to have real-time health systems. Maybe it didn't even be too advanced, but we could even think about certain operations that could be done real-time with robotics in the far future, as things go unknown. So wearable devices and sensors can collect data on the patient's health and transmit these data to the healthcare providers, and allowing them for early detection and intervention. Sometimes, if you notice that in Africa, sometimes the public hospitals are sometimes very overcrowded, and with patients, and with the help of IoT connecting sensors and a lot of things, we can be able to even reduce the overloaded healthcare system, because many of the issues can already be resolved via the internet in diverse forms, whether be it communicated through the phone, or the sensors that have been placed on the patients, either maybe monitoring diverse things from glucose to to their weight and to their heart rates and all kinds of things. So indeed, if you think about in the area of healthcare, IoT has a very huge possibilities in diverse forms that we can think about. Not only that, if you look at in the area of energy, you know, IoT can be used to improve access to electricity in remote areas. I believe there's a couple of specialized engineers in this energy area here. If you can be able to imagine in making smart grids that you have sensors on from the solar panels that are being able to collect data and upload this data to platforms, through these platforms, they can be able to have a very good overview of the energy that is in a particular area, and through that, they can be able to optimize the energy consumption and the energy deployment as well. So it could help reduce waste and leading to cost savings and increased energy efficiency. So not only on the large scale, but if you also think about a smart home, where even your light bulbs have some sensors that are connected to the internet, that even when you are not at home, you can be able to have an overview of the energy consumption in your house. And then from there, you're able to know how to utilize energy. Because I remember, if you think about the light bulb, when I was much younger child, I remember that the light bulbs around the house would take around 60 watts. But today, if you look at some smart bulbs, they can consume as low as 2 watts. So looking at 60 watts to 2 watts, due to high performance, in the sense that you only give the needed light intensity that is needed for that time. For example, if you look at some phones, even the phones now, they have adaptive brightness. You can adjust to optimize. And these things can best be optimized when data is being collected and being shared. And sometimes if the user is far away via the internet of things, his things are connected to the internet, he's able to adjust and change and have full control. And in that way, his energy resources are being optimized. If you think about smart meters and even making the meter smarter by connecting them to the internet, and then on your mobile app, you're able to have a complete overview of your energy consumption, and then you are able to control things. So this is made possible by IoT. If you think about another area where IoT could have a huge impact in developing countries, is in the area of manufacturing. I believe there's many industrial engineers here and people who specialize in industrial IoT. We know that in the manufacturing plants, there are many machines that are working together, and some of these machines are coming from diverse suppliers. And imagine if each of these machines have sensors that are being connected to the internet in such a way that the manufacturers can be getting real-time updates on these machines, monitoring the machine health. It goes a whole long way in maintenance and in optimizing production efficiency. It's very explosive. If you just think about in any way in manufacturing, how I can collect data from machines by putting sensors and connect this thing to a platform that is connected to the internet in such a way that you could even begin to apply things like data analytics and even artificial intelligence to be able to improve your manufacturing yield. These things are made possible by Internet of Things. Another possibility we can think about of IoT is in the area of transportation. It's been gradually getting better in developing countries. They are really thinking about how to use IoT to improve transportation systems. From these vehicles are objects, they could be connected to the internet, and through their GPS, they are able to have real-time updates on the location of the vehicle, and they are able to constantly communicate and give, for instance, the commuters live updates on when the bus is coming, when the train is leaving, if there is a delay, and this kind of things. The transport sector will become much more predictable, much more efficient, and thanks to IoT. It's a very, very powerful feature. Not only that, you could think about traffic management, where these traffic lights are all networked and connected to the internet on one platform, and using data analytics and artificial intelligence, we can be able to optimize the routes in such a way that when real-time updates are given, if there is a traffic hitch of somewhere before it escalates into something else, there could be alternative routes that are being mapped out to avoid over congestion. And not only that as well, in predictive maintenance of transport infrastructure. If these transport infrastructures have sensors that are constantly giving updates or to an internet platform, they can be able to track the health of these infrastructures and know how far they need in the maintenance of these infrastructures as well. So that's the transport sector. If you think about the education sector, IoT could rapidly enhance education. We already see this happening already in developing countries. We can think about from smart classrooms where the boards are connected to the internet. The students can have access to these boards on their phone. So instead of imagine the lecturer, I remember when I was a technical instructor teaching basic engineering principles back then in Nigeria, I would have to carry my chalk and write and write and write and write. And with IoT, if the classrooms could get smarter, the teachers become much more efficient in the sense that they can be able to do lots of illustrations and save time. Develop a lot of things where if the mobile phones or the platforms are all connected to the internet, many things become very easy. Tracking, attendance, and all these things save time in the sense that through IoT, the teacher-student interaction could be enhanced in such a way that they can really focus on continuous learning as opposed to other things that are already that maybe wear out the teacher or wear out the student. And not only that as well, not only in the classroom, you could think about provision of long distance learning. I believe it's happening in a couple of universities as well. They could take down these things to even primary schools, secondary schools, where they could have distance learning opportunities for the students in remote areas. So imagine the area where the students have to maybe walk a long distance, or maybe the transport care in that particular area, maybe they have to take a canoe through the river, and every time they do this on a daily basis, it increases their risks in such a way that through IoT they could say, okay, maybe we go 2 days a week, and the remaining 3 days of courses that are not maybe physically practical or that need hands-on things, the students can have some of those things in a Zoom or in a specialized learning platform where they can still be able to interact with their colleagues and really focus on developing themselves and learning. So new generations of textbooks, interactive textbooks, data collection, and through all these data collections, the schools could even be managed very, 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 very effectively. So these are the diverse possibilities of IoT. Let's think about the opportunities that are around IoT. One of the opportunities that we can think about is job creation. Obviously, sometimes it looks like as though it sucks out some jobs, but it really creates job opportunities in the sense of, especially in the areas of technology development. When we're talking about, when you come up with platforms, you need people to develop these platforms. And some of those sensors and these things, they need to be manufactured. Some they could be manufactured locally, and that could bring up some job creation. And also in the providing these services that related to IoT, an opportunity rises in job creation. If you think about areas like data analytics and artificial intelligence, it's creating jobs. Today, people could go and learn some things about data analytics, and then this data from all these various sensors, depending on the industry of application, they are able to create jobs. It's an opportunity to be able to create jobs through IoT. Also, for sure, when we using IoT, it has the potential to drive economic growth, because once many processes are being enhanced, things could be done more efficiently. So you could save time, and as you're saving time, you could grow faster because of your saving time, and it could also enhance the quality of the products and services. And as a result, once the output of production is increasing, the quality of the services are improving, these things indirectly affect the economic growth. So with IoT, it presents an opportunity for us to grow the economy through IoT. Now, if you think about another opportunity of IoT, IoT presents an opportunity for us to improve the quality of life. The quality of life. IoT is one of those things that could help improve the quality of life in the areas of healthcare, in energy, in transportation. Most of the stress is being sucked out with the help of technology, and the people can really focus on really developing themselves. And instead of battling some mundane tasks that may not be very essential for their development. So these are a couple of opportunities. And another area that IoT presents us is increased competitiveness. Through the enhancement and the smartness of our businesses and processes, we become much more competitive because the quality goes up, the efficiency goes up, the delivery time also goes up, and then our products and services can become even much more competitive and compete with diverse, even very developed countries. Because in the end, it's about the product and the service. And the world has already transitioned. It's not about whether it's developing or developed. If the quality is good and the service is very good, we have an edge and we are competitive against other suppliers that are around. So we have increased competitiveness through IoT. And also, if you think about IoT, when IoT opens the doors to things, so you could think about anything, and it sparks up innovation. And already in Africa, people are already coming up with innovative ideas, how to connect things, put sensors on things, and collect data. And it's, I believe, also in developing countries in the areas of data analytics, and also even in artificial intelligence. These things are sparking innovation because it gives you flexibilities, and you're able to think of ideas as to how to improve the things that you do. So as a result of that, it presents to us an opportunity for us to increase in innovation. ideas. So now we've seen the possibilities, we've seen the opportunities. Let's think about some risks related to IoT, Internet things. One of the things is the data privacy. If you are looking about collecting and transmitting data, so sometimes these things pose risks to privacy. Do you really want to collect all the data? Or what happens if the platform leaks, information leaks, and all the data is being exposed? Just a simple example. It's even in a developed country. There was even a time that the smart readers, the data was exposed, and the employees are like, "Oh, what's going to happen to our data? Everybody now knows my picture that I'm working here," and this kind of privacy and security poses a risk. The other risk we can think about is cybersecurity. IoT devices are vulnerable to cyber attacks, and as a result, data breaches, system failures, and other security risks could come as a result of that. If you think about a patient, whose health data is being transmitted, and imagine someone wants to assassinate that person, maybe someone with a heart condition. If that person's data is hacked and the wrong information is being passed, that person could lose their lives as a result of the security breach. Also, the other risks we can think about in IoT is the lack of infrastructure. And not only even in the lack of infrastructure itself, but also in the maintenance of these infrastructures. Sometimes if insecurities come around, these systems are very, very expensive sometimes. And then if they get destroyed or not maintained, the whole chain would not work well, because the whole chain needs to be connected. There has to be connectivity. Otherwise, you don't get the best. Otherwise, you don't get the best out of IoT. So another risk is in the area of the limited human capacity. Sometimes the IoT developments, the skilled human resources. So people need to be trained to be able to handle these things. And if they are not trained properly, they could not handle the systems properly, and some systems could be very sensitive that could have huge impact. The other thing we can also think about is the costs. The cost of deploying and maintaining these systems could be very, very high. We hope that in the future, the same way mobile technology started, it was very expensive, and suddenly people were able to afford it. We hope as IoT continuously advances, we would be able, people will be able to afford this as well. If you want to think about a case study, just a simple case study to bring it home, well, you may argue that that's not completely IoT, but in a way, it's partially IoT. The current election that was going on today, they use the bimodal voter accreditation system called BVAS, and they have a result viewing portal in the Nigerian general elections to vote for the president or for the government. So they use the system to register the voters, verify the voters, and upload the election results via the internet. So in a way, the things, so the voting polling units are like things now, because they are represented by a BVAS that is connected to the IREV, the Internet of Things. So if you think about the system and you imagine what happened, a lot of loopholes. One of them is the device malfunctioning. So in the polling unit, suddenly the device may not be functioning properly. That's a huge risk. Another risk could be cybersecurity, though there are claims that some parts of the systems were hacked and the wrong results were uploaded. Another challenge was that even some officials lacked complete understanding of the device themselves. So if they cannot operate it properly, then they may not be able to upload accurate results. And also sometimes the systems, people could try to manipulate the sensors or the things, the local one. And even the most challenging part as well is network failure. When the networks are failing, then the Internet of Things is not properly functioning. Because it brings it home to really think about the risks and the opportunities, because something happened, was it last week, Thursday? They had an election where I was, this is in a developed country. And when I went here, I was surprised and shocked to see that they were using just paper to vote in a developed country like the Netherlands. I was wondering, then I started to ask a couple of colleagues at work who were Dutch, and they explained to me that, you know, at some time they tried a technology kind of thing like that, but due to the risks, they thought that for that particular application, let's go back to all paper. So that's why, to conclude, we see that in conclusion, IoT presents both possibilities, opportunities for developing countries, but also risks that must be carefully managed. And also the deployment of IoT devices and systems in development countries requires careful considerations of factors. Think about data privacy, security, cybersecurity, the infrastructures, the human capacity, and the costs. So when we have all these things together, with the right policies, the right investments, IoT has the potential to transform many industries, improve in developing countries, and improve the quality of life. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. Questions and contributions from the experts as well are also welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Dio, for this very wonderful and insightful presentation. I think without much ado, we will just go straight to question and answers. Engineer Monday, over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Engineer Dio. This was quite an interesting and insightful session. I think the floor is open now for comments, questions and answers and remarks, you know. So if you just raise your hand and I will ask you, then you unmute, then you can ask your question. We have a question from Adewale Odeshina. Please unmute and ask your question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for part of this. Up and clear?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I want to know, can we have this, the recorded version of this, so I can have time to study it again? Then is there going to be a possibility of having further education on this? On the IoT. I've heard about IoT for some time now, from friends and all. And I see the huge opportunity for this deployment in Nigeria, where the internet is so poor. I understand from my past interaction with somebody that does not require so much of internet availability, that works with the minimum internet capacity, like a 2G network that works with 2G. I don't know if that can be confirmed on this part. I came very late. That's
okay.
My question.
Thank you very much. Just to recap his question. The first one, you asked for the video. Yes, it will be uploaded in our YouTube and our different social media platforms. We are already sharing the links in the chat room. Just subscribe and you'll get it, including previous webinars we have. Quite educating materials are there. So I really recommend anybody in this webinar to subscribe. Dr. Dayo, did you get his question? His question is, one, he would like to throw more light, especially on the application of IoT on lesser internet network like 2G, if it can be efficient.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Yes, it's indeed, it depends on the level of connectivity that you want. For example, if we go back to this, the case study of the IREV that they used for the Nigerian election, this device would only need to function when it was time to just upload the results. Then that's the only case that you would need to connect it to the internet. So it's very possible, depending on how you want to design the system. You can design some IoT systems to, in fact, use very, very minimal internet usage. Because if you think about it, if you look at the first picture that I showed, yes, so if you think about this picture here, you see that it's only when you go to the gateway, right, that you need internet connectivity. But that system could still be working locally between the sensors and the mobile phones, and then maybe only relevant information that could go through the internet. So it's very possible for it to use limited information. But however, if you want things like real-time videos, real-time gaming, like real-time Zoom that we are doing here, you have to be aware that you would need high-quality internet. But for example, you can ask the question, is video required, or is audio just enough, or is real-time required? So depending on, or sometimes you could even build systems to be very flexible. So you could build a system to be adaptive in the sense that, okay, if there is low network, no video, if there is, you know what I mean? So, or if there is, so you can always build it to be very flexible. And in fact, at some point, you could even make it to be local and shut it out of the internet completely. It's possible as well. Does that help a bit? Or if there's also somebody else that also has an insight into that question, can also feel free to as well. Yeah.
All right. So maybe I would like to comment on this. So thank you very much, Engineer Adedayo, for your wonderful presentation. Yeah, so I think in terms of energy efficiency, IoT solutions, so it depends on, first of all, what use case are you talking about? Sometimes I think a cellular network may not really be the solution. There are other ones that are, very low energy efficient, like LoRa, for example. If you're looking at few bytes or kilobytes of data that you'll be sending across, then you have to consider other solutions as well. I know of other, I think in Lagos, we have an engineering network running there. I think we really need to do a lot in Nigeria in terms of evaluating and deploying this technology. For example, if you are looking at IoT for agriculture, if you'll be looking at collecting fee information about soil information, about temperature and all that, so you will be relying on cellular. It will be expensive for you to rely on cellular for that sort of things. So I think basically depends on what you want, and then you now think around connectivity, security, depending on your take on that. Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another hand raised. Fetimi Balogun, please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
All right, thank you for this great opportunity, and I really appreciate the presenter as well. Now, when you're talking about Internet of Things, and everything actually revolve around a very fundamental point, which is like electricity as well. And today it is really quite unfortunate that the Nigerian government is solving the problem of Nigerian economy in a cycle without tackling the problem from one point. We all knew the indispensable significance of electricity when it comes to technology and the modern world. And of course, awareness is something that can really help people. Somehow, people may not know the importance of these things, and the government may not. We may think that they know, and probably they don't even know, because this actually involves a lot of deep insights. And today you're talking about the importance of IoT when it comes to agri. And this is where Africa will quite really excel. So I don't know if there is going to be a possibility to create a platform of awareness and bring it back to our people on a large scale, probably involving the stakeholders, the public back home, to see how the government can really come into these stuffs. Because I still believe the growth of every country actually depends on those who have traveled far to see the other part of the world, and they're actually bringing this knowledge back home. So how can we involve government in this whole thing? Sometimes because we go with a lot of assumption, believing that these people know these things, and probably the awareness is not even there. So is there something we can collectively do to help this situation?
Engineer Balogun, I think this is a very interesting comment you made. And I think that is the reason why we engineers in diaspora are trying to make impact through the NSC. So this is a continuous process. That is also, if you in several meetings with the NSC is also working on getting also into the political scene, because that is how we can also really make this impact, driving it home. So we'll just continue what we are doing, continue pushing from the diaspora, supporting the people back home. And through the vehicle of NSC, I believe one day we'll be able to realize what we want for our country. Like I said, this is the fundamental objective of setting up this organization, especially in diaspora.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you, Engineer Ike. So in terms of what we can do through the government, I think the role of government around technology deployment or technology offering for its citizens is around, I think one is regulation. They are already doing that through the efforts of NCC in terms of cybersecurity and spectrum allocation. For example, each country look at spectrum availability, what is best used for this type of technology. If you look at different countries are considering different spectrum for 5G. 5G, people say is on high frequency, but it's practically impossible at this time, because you deploying 5G at something, let's say 20 megahertz, you require a very huge infrastructural investment in order to scale coverage within a specific area. So people are looking at the lower frequency band around 700 megahertz, for such technology, as long as the throughput is meeting deployment requirements for what you're going to use it for. Also, in terms of, you see that some countries are limiting certain devices that they deploy within their infrastructure. I would want to mention names, but Nigerian government should also look into it. For example, cybersecurity by design. You want to ensure that any IoT product that comes to your country meets a certain cybersecurity requirements. You want to, have codes and standards. I know NSC, through its wisdom, is already working on codes and standards. They should extend across, every sector, not just IoT. That is, it ensures that whatever people are doing follows a particular, due process. So I think these then I want to say that it all depends on individuals. All of us here, we have our own area of interest. You don't expect government to do everything. So the essence of this is, we talked as a branch, we are looking at innovation and how to progress these innovations. It's up to us to actually go back, we start looking back home, how we can, tap is an opportunity actually, or it's an opportunity that's out there. So we need to go back. Governments can't do everything. We that understand how this works should start thinking of how to go back home. So Fetimi, I'm inviting you to join us. If you're not an engineer, we have an associate membership route. So through that platform, we can work together and see how we can progress this forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my chairman. Yes, we have another question from Engineer Shegu. Please go ahead.
Just one question about legislation. Do we have legislation or any policy framework that could drive the growth of Internet of Things in developing countries? And is there, the second one would be, is there a way to incentivize, the Internet of Things penetration in developing countries? Thank you.
Yes, that's a very good one. So indeed, like our branch manager mentioned earlier, when you look at things like the NCC, because it's technology, so most of those things can work through the NCC. I read also an article that they are working on, like a branch also said, Mohammed also said that they are working on these frameworks and regulations to help regulate the standardization of the products that are coming in and those kind of things. So basically, those kind of standardizations through NCC and other bodies would help to keep the bad guys out as well. So, and then the other way that I'm thinking about when you think about incentives is also about opening the doors to some of these companies that provides some of these services and giving them some subsidies in a way that's enabling them or making the African or the developing countries, the governments are able to create some incentives to these companies in such a way that they find it much more attractive to develop and deploy their products there. For example, I know some countries when they have companies that are part of this chain, they give them maybe special tax relief or also the other way the government can come up is, I believe they have some of those, but they can also really gear it towards IoT, is also in the area of creating funds for startups, and then when these startups, because most of all these things deal with import and export as well, they can be able to create these avenues in such a way that when these products are being imported, the tax, the custom tax and all those things would enable these products to be much cheaper. And when they are cheaper, the solutions will be able to be easily deployed even more. So these are just one of the many ideas. I don't know if someone else also has more ideas.
Thank you very much. I think we'll take one more question because I think our time has been fast spent. One more question from the participants before we wrap up.
While we are waiting, I just wanted to add, maybe the government can also increase I think you mentioned grant as well. Yeah, they need to increase effort in terms of research, encourage people to really go into not just producing papers, but turning it into products, and how do you do that? You need to have manufacturing. We're not doing well in terms of manufacturing homegrown technologies. So if we don't produce this thing, it's going to be expensive in terms of lifecycle management to keep us, importing. And so I think that's an area where the government can incentivize this and make it easier, for this to happen. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions. I would only like to add to what my chairman said. I think before we talk about manufacturing, I think there are some very fundamental things we need to really do in that country, and it has to do with electricity. we just can't, I can't believe that we can't find a solution to power the country. Without that, we cannot get to where we really want to be as a country, you know, as a country in the developing world. So I think everything here goes to the foundation that we need power in that country as well. So with this, I will thank everybody for nice comments, nice contribution, good questions, and also Dr. Dayo for taking this up. So I hand back the mic to my colleague, Engineer Shegun. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Engineer Eberechukwu Omisakin. Thank you, Dr. Dayo, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I think that would round
It's a pleasure.
up, yeah, that will round up our session. But before you go, and before I hand over to the chairman, do you have any last words you want to say to the branch and all the people available here?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity once again. Thank you for for listening and also for your questions. Indeed, we must keep this thing at heart and have this topic in mind. And when we have opportunities in our discussions, and we should always feel free to always bring it up as an idea when we have opportunities to meet with people, prominent people, ask them, okay, how are you using IoT in your industry? So let's keep up that promoting this, because for sure it's a very way to really boost our nation, make it more competitive, grow the economy, and improve the quality of lives of our people. Thank you once again.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Doctor. And
sorry, Engineer Shegun. Apologies. Just a question. Apologies, I was just on transit, but I'm trying to raise up my hand, but it's a bit difficult driving and doing this. Just a question for thanks, Dr. Adebayo, for that wonderful presentations. I learned a lot today myself. In terms of someone to say, for example, people in Nigeria, and they want to source this kind of, you know, in terms of the skills and the hardware to build a robust IoT or to develop it better in the country, which country will you recommend in terms of to get this in a sort of avoidable, way in terms of the cost? So can you please advise on that, sir? Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. So basically, it depends. It's variable. It's very variable. Sometimes because of its system, the various parts can be sourced from various places. For example, I know that in most parts of India, they could help the platform parts and make it much cheaper, you know. And also in the hardwares, there are also startups in Europe as well that are into these products. And but most of the time, it's less about the country itself, because most of the times these countries have the design part, but it's really about the company, how they are producing their products. For example, if the company that is producing has a manufacturing plant in China and is doing a mass production, the cost will go down. But if it's still the same, but in that same country, if the production is done locally in the developed country, the cost of that device would be high. So it's variable, but I would recommend company startups in the Netherlands, in Europe for the hardware parts. And those companies, you need to go to the ones that have large production in China, so that the production cost would go low, and also some quality stamps as well. And then if it's for the software parts, you could get some cheap software solutions in India, and even in Nigeria, there are also some very good, don't underestimate Nigerians when it comes to the software areas. But however, you have to properly define the system to them, properly explain to them the specifications, and they can be able to build some of the software parts for you. But it's together, you get the various parts from various areas and optimize the whole solution all together. So it's not one place, but it's in diverse places to get the whole thing, to get the whole system working. Thank you. Any other, maybe somebody else has another idea of another recommendation, it's also welcome.
Yeah, guys, if I may say something, please. Sorry, I wanted to comment since, but I was on the road. So just quickly, in terms of sourcing this, yeah, like the doctor has said, there are companies in Nigeria that do this. Last year, I was in Nigeria to actually deliver a workshop on IoT at MiniLab, and at some point, we ran into shortage of parts that we needed, and we were able to source most of them from Lagos. Currently, actually, I'm still working with MiniLab. I just got like a mail yesterday from them asking that they wanted to upgrade their IoT lab and asking the same question, where should they source their parts from? So I think the best place would be China, if you know what you're looking for. So the main thing is to find someone that has the expertise that can guide you. So if you have a requirement, you talk with the person. I think the software development is not too difficult, and there are a lot of young people that are doing this in Nigeria right now. So if you know what you're looking for, the cheapest option for you is by far China. If you want to design things from scratch, which is not really advisable because there are lots of open source platforms for both hardware and that are becoming really, really much cheaper. And, you know, because most of the time, what you just want to do is consider the energy consumption and how it's going to be transmitting the data that I collect. So I think there's a lot of capacity already in Nigeria if you know where to look. And if you're designing things from scratch, then that's where things might get a little bit complicated. Yeah, that's just my 1 cent.
Thank you so much, engineer, for that beautiful contribution. So without further ado, thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. We will be communicating to everyone about our next webinar, which will be in April, and we will let you know what the topic is. Just watch this space. There are quite interesting topics that will be presented throughout this year. So